Hi everyone, it's Sally again, and welcome to another awesome session of Magic Mike Moments. And today I'm very blessed and grateful to be sitting here and talking with Serina Bird, who's based in Canberra. So welcome, Serina. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I think I kind of invited myself after hearing from the fabulous Angie Rassi, Misty Henkel, and Alison Williams how fabulous you were.
Thank you. Well, let's hope I can deliver on the goods. So here's a little bit about Serina. Serina left a diplomatic career on Halloween 2019 to pursue her big, crazy ideas. She's author of the Joyful Frugalista, host of the podcast of the same name, and a freelance writer and money coach. Wow. She's also founder of the Joyful Business Club, which supports women in business to shine, and the Joyful Fashionista, an online marketplace for buying and selling fabulous secondhand clothes. Wow, how interesting. So her next book, The Joyful Startup Guide, is being published by the Kind Press and will be released in April. So that's coming along pretty soon. So, and just recently, along with Claire Harris, she's just established the Founder Alliance, a meeting network that is part networking, part accountability, that aims to support and help female founders. Wow, you are a busy chick.
Yeah, I have a tendency to take on too much. Or actually, no, I shouldn't say that. That's a limiting belief. I'm interested in many things.
Right, yes. Well, interesting mix here. So why don't you share a little bit about your journey, maybe some of the challenges along the way, because you've got your finger in so many pies here. It's very interesting.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, I was, in a Commonwealth Australian public service job for nearly 20 years, worked in a few different departments. And my first book, The Joyful Frugalista, was published in February 2019. So just gone past the 3rd year anniversary of that happening. And then, a few things happened. And one was that I got a lot of media from that. And it just was sort of becoming like it was a little bit in dissonance with I'm sitting at my desk doing my job kind of career. It was kind of weird. I'd have phone calls asking me to do amazing things, and I was sort of at my desk, and you could sort of see that wasn't really sustainable. And also my work got toxic. And to be frank, I think a fellow co-worker just got jealous from it all. And I wasn't trying to be anything other than I was. But I realized that in my public service career, I was always dimming my light. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
100%. It wasn't a safe place to shine in the light of my true self. I wasn't being fully authentic to how I was. I was trying to fit in and to be a cog in the wheel. And I was always kind of wasn't really in that. I couldn't just be a yes, sir, yes, ma'am person. It's not how I am. So it was always causing a bit of friction, because from time to time, my true light would peek out, and then people would get a bit freaked out about it. And that would cause problems. And you can sort of sense your energy's not right, because you're sort of like zipping it and you're not saying things, you're not doing things. And I was always the sort of person who wanted to do things in newer ways, in more innovative ways, not just do my job, but just do the best, and just to also just change things for the better. And that's not always the motivation of people around me. So it was just a little bit of dissonance.
Yeah. So like the Joyful Frugalista, what is the book about?
Book is about saving and investing, really, and partly it's also my journey. So it's not a pure you should save money doing 1, 2, 3, because to be honest, that's pretty boring. So I really try and make it pretty accessible by sharing a little bit about my story in the mix. And I'm certainly not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I've been a single mother. I left my first husband after getting a domestic violence order. I certainly had a great career. It was posted as a diplomat to Taiwan when the violence happened, and then returned to Australia, and 6 months later got the order. So I wasn't in the normal. Well, actually, there is no normal with domestic violence, but what we think of is someone without any money or without a job, and that wasn't me. Like, I had a good job, but still there was some financial control and other issues that were not the way we often think of them. So all of that was sort of happening. And so the book also talks about those sorts of things. And I think too, like, often a lot of the finance books are, tend to be written by young men, although it's changing a lot now, but it's like, I'm going to be a billionaire by age this, and my life is going to go like this. But women, our lives go up and down. And, there's a lot of really unexpected things that just happen to us that, quite frankly, are just shit. So my message has always actually been about financial resilience. like how you have that resilience to go forward when things are pretty crap. Because, you know, in my case, I became, you know, single parent overnight and suddenly had legal bills on top of everything else. And it was quite difficult. And this is not uncommon, to be honest. So my motto then was one day at a time, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Didn't consciously think of it as a mindfulness practice. It was just, that was what I could cope with at the time. And I guess I love being able to show to other people, especially women, that you can come out the other end, that it is actually all those little things you do, all those little savings things that over time will make a big difference to your abundance.
Yeah, 100%. Like when you were saying that, my thing was Kelly Clarkson, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, that was my anthem.
Yeah.
Kids were sick of hearing it. And just on a personal thing, like what's your thoughts about every chick having a little stash of cash?
Technically it's called the F-off fund. I don't know if you swear on this or not,
Yeah,
but actually it's been written widely about this too. And certainly when I was going through real problems, and I'm based on the research I had, I did actually have a grab bag, so which is quite common. So I had it in the gym at the luxury apartment complex where we were living, in the female gym, and you know, I had some clothes there, I had some cash in there, I had numbers of things like passports and so forth. It wasn't a lot of money, but I had it there. And you know, certainly financial coercive control is a factor in many cases, and it's not just that they're poor, like often like all the money is invested somewhere else, might be in a trust somewhere. In my case, it was in investment properties. There's usually something, and usually what is missing is cash. So in my current marriage, because I've remarried, we both have an emergency, our own sanity money. So we both go give ourselves $100 a fortnight. And it actually adds up quite quickly. Like I've got about $600 sitting in there. So like, you know, if I really got the shits with him and, you know, for instance, which I don't think I would because I'm very happy. And for some reason he, you know, stopped the joint credit card. Like I've got my own cash.
Yeah, independence. It gives you independence. It's so important. It just, it makes me cry when I just see time after time, and it's not, it can be with either sex, but whoever can pull on the strings. I think everybody needs a stash of cash for their independence, be it male, female, whatever, so that you've got this get out of jail card. You can do something. I have so many stories of girlfriends that have walked away, had nothing, and have done it really, really, really tough. Like, yeah,
exactly. And, you know, like I said, you know, it's this financial coercive control is a factor in many abusive relationships, because if you love someone, you will, you know, be willing to set them free. You'll set yourself up like that. On some level, if your spouse is jealous or, you know, wants to hold on to you, they're not going to make it easy. They're probably not going to sit down and go, I'm going to, you know, exercise financial coercive control, but, you know, making it hard for her to access money. But, you know, they're not really going to just say, well, here's a blank check, take whatever you want. Like, you know what I mean? Because they're going to be scared that you're going to take it and run off. So they sort of control the strings on some level.
And look, just in my experience, when I see it all the time, control over money, the issues that these people have, their self-esteem issues, and, you know, it's deeper level stuff, and they haven't done the work. So they live in superficial sort of boundary area where it's give and take over money and strangle you that way, when the inner stuff is what needs to be addressed, but they're deflecting that. So yeah, interesting. We could talk about that for hours.
But yeah, exactly.
Moving on to, like, then you set up the Joyful Business Club. So was that on the back of the book about getting women more au fait with money and how to use it, or the importance of it, or what, you know, what was the club all around?
Yeah, sort of. It's kind of a bit of a long story, but, you know, I remember it would have been 2018, because that's the year I got married, and I remember talking about it on my honeymoon. So 2018, I was sitting at my desk in public service reading a whole lot of things, and I just had this intuitive insight that a real issue holding women in business back was access to investment funding. And that was before there was so much attention that was drawn to it as there is now. So I thought, okay, I want to set up a peer-to-peer lending mechanism you know, and there's been a few of these around, but sort of like you see a lot of microcredit in third world countries, developing countries, to particularly help women and others. But I want this for all women entrepreneurs. I want to make this a thing. So I had that idea. And then I had a podcasting co-host for my first podcast, and I sort of convinced her to do this with me. And so when I left work, it was always with the aim of, I'm going to build up the Joyful Frugalista in terms of going to do things more in that space, in terms of more writing and more influencing. And I'm going to take this, you know, big, hairy, audacious goal of doing something with this concept and build it forward. So that was fine, except then that partnership broke down, and I went, okay, well, it's not going to happen then.
Yeah.
And then I saw there was a female founders grant round. So this would have been in early 2020. And then I convinced another friend to go in with it with me. And we both put in a grant application, which went nowhere.
Yeah.
And then she did a pitch for StartMate, which also went nowhere. And then the partnership just kind of went like spectacularly. And I just realized I just really hadn't chosen the right person at all. Yeah. And hubby said to me, well, why did you ask her in the first place? And I said, well, I didn't think I was good enough. And he said, well, you're plenty good enough, so just bloody do it. So that's basically what I did. Within a week, I had a new name. And actually he suggested, he said, well, why are you going and doing all these other brands? You've got this really strong brand around joy. So like, why don't you build on that? And so I went, yeah, actually it makes sense. So I did that. And then the lovely Lib Ferreira did a great logo, and she just nailed it first time. It just happened really quickly. It was like within about a week it was up. And then I was kind of like, well, I've got this idea. Like, what am I going to do about it? How do I move it forward? And honestly, I had no idea. So the first step was that I just started blogging about it. And then I started doing some Facebook Lives just to build a bit of a community, you know, on various topics, because I just didn't know, you know, you just have no idea. You have an idea. You want to do something to promote business women, but you have no idea how to get there. And plus I was very new to this as well. So I had no credibility in that space. You know, no one knew that I was doing anything. So I just went forward with it. And then I got a scholarship to do a course at the Canberra Innovation Network called Ideas to Impact. So I spent, I think, 10 weeks working on this concept. And at the end of it, I think I was even more scared about the peer-to-peer lending network than ever before, but I was still quite keen on this. And then somehow in that process, I applied to be the ACT ambassador for Women's Entrepreneurship Day. So I spent last year in the role of that, and convened an online meeting. Well, actually all of the ambassadors did, but I took the main role in getting that going. So that was for Australia and New Zealand, and it hasn't been confirmed yet, but most likely I'm taking over this year the role of National Ambassador for Women's Entrepreneurship Day. And then all of those interviews that I've been doing, or most of them, the Facebook Lives, where I went out and sort of almost begging people to please be my guest, you know, in this new Facebook group that I didn't have a lot of people on. A lot of those now have turned into content for my book, The Joyful Startup Guide, which is being published by The Kind Press in April of this year. So I guess it's a long story, but like, it's kind of like imperfect action all the way. Like, you have this idea and you're like, oh my God, I have no idea how I'm going to get there. But, you know, because I'm a writer and a blogger, I sort of picked that first thing that I knew, and I was like, okay. And I wasn't making any money from it. I'm still not making much money from the Facebook Lives, but like, it all just starts. And this morning, it all happens. And this morning, Claire Harris, who I met through the Canberra Innovation Network, and I had our first meeting for the Founders Alliance, and that is a paid meeting. So we are earning some money from that. It's small at the moment, but we feel this is a really good model. So I guess, you know, it's just one of those things. And, you know, I often look and think, well, why don't I have more courage to do more with this? But you sort of do a bit and it's a bit scary, and then you sort of sit with it a bit, and then you do a bit more and it's a bit scary, and you sit with it, and then you do a bit more.
Fantastic, because everything is about simple, small steps, right?
Yeah.
Sustainable. And you were giving me so many goosebump moments talking about that, because when you're in alignment, it just flows, you know. And when you stepped up and empowered yourself a little bit, it all just started to happen for you. So, you know, with all the ebbs and flows, you're learning more about yourself, boosting your own confidence, becoming more resilient, and then it's just getting in alignment. So yes, tell me a little bit more about this Founder Alliance, this networking group that you just say it was just today.
Just today we had the first meeting. So like I said, Claire Harris and I, we came together with it, and both of us had different needs. So we've both been talking for a while about, wouldn't it be great to get more women in particular together to do a few things. And after Women's Entrepreneurship Day, Claire said, wouldn't it be great to have some drinks? And I was actually pretty comatose after that, because it had been a big day, and I was seeing the whole day, and like pulling it together, and it was just nuts, and I was just kind of, yeah, whatever. So she kind of actually did most of the organization for that, and I just turned up feeling a little bit guilty, but she just did such an awesome job, and I was like, wow, Claire, you're super organized. And she's just like, yeah, well, this is what you do. And yeah, it was just amazing. She had a roped off area with, like, the that red sort of rope,
Oh yeah,
big signs and everything. And I was just like, wow, this is just amazing. And then both of us last October attended a seminar at the Canberra Innovation Network that was convened by the ACT government, and it was called Adaptive Cities Female Founders. So the ACT government recognised that it didn't have as many female entrepreneurs in the ecosystem as it could, and it also recognised that women in business bring tremendous benefits to the economy. However, they're often underfunded. And they're sort of a little bit invisible. So they really wanted to explore those things. So I was on a table, Claire was on a different table. We did it virtually, and then every table did a pitch, and then they were voted on. Now, my table's pitch, which I had a lot of background into, got 0 votes. But I still felt quite passionate about it. And so it was in the back of my mind. And then I spoke to Claire and said, do you think maybe we could do something? And she said, well, actually, yours might have got 0 votes, but this other one got like the top votes. And there were actually some elements of that which were quite good. So we sort of combined a few things and a few experiences, and came together to form this. So it's part networking and it's part accountability. And both of us, experience imposter syndrome and that sense of, I've lost my mojo. I don't know what is the next thing that I can do to give a bit of momentum. So at the end of every meeting, people have the opportunity to identify one action of things that they want to take forward. Whether they wish to share it in the community or keep it private is up to them, but they commit to doing one action. And when I say that, we're not really, what's the term? We're not like jail keepers who see someone, in a fortnight at the next meeting go, you said you'd do this. Did you do this or not? but the fact that people will come back and then you can say, well, what successes are there to share is a really motivating thing, because then you go, oh, that's right. Oh, shit, I said I was going to do this thing that was a bit hard for me to do. Have I done it or not? I better actually get on and do it. So, we sort of felt that was important. And the other thing too is both of us were, I wouldn't say struggling, but both of us felt that we wanted to network in different ways. We felt that it was less about bling and more about genuine authenticity and connection. So we have 2 particular rules in this group, and one is that we don't do pitches, and we do sharing, but we don't do pitches. So we don't do formal pitching. There are a lot of other forums that do that, and it is the elevator pitch is a really important skill. However, we don't do it in this because we don't feel that it aids to establish genuine connections. And the other thing is we don't hand out business cards. And the reason behind that is because of sustainability. Like, you go to networking events and there's stacks and stacks and stacks of paper. What we do is encourage people to link together in Instagram.
Through social.
So there's a few aspects of that are quite different in their approach. And I would love to work with Claire on an online version, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, keep me in the loop for that one, because I really like it. I really love that. And I love the accountability, because I've got this saying that I've made up myself: accountability propels success.
It does.
And so, with all the work I do, and even with my journals, some people still struggle if they're not accountable. Like, journals do make you a little bit more accountable because you do it every day. But, that's, I think, the key to success is having that accountability. We're all with such a busy world and we've got so much to do. And if you've got someone or something, over your head kicking a foot up your butt, to get this stuff done. And so even if you haven't done it, at least you can come and say, I'm really sorry, I got stuck. And then you go, well, what do you want help with? Whatever it is, but you can do it through the networking. I love this idea. I love it. The no pitches is interesting, but I love that it's based on authenticity and genuine connections, because I'm in a lot of networking groups, and a lot of them are very genuine, but you can pick the superficial ones, right? The ones that just want to just take the details, get the context, get the emails, and then buzz off. And I think that'd be sort of vetted at the door in that way. But interesting, I really love it. So the other aspect the other area that you've got is the Joyful Fashionista. How did you fall into that one? I know,
like there's not enough, right? Once again, it's my intuition, and I'm really learning that when your intuition nudges you, you have to listen to it. And
100%.
in this case, it's been a longer journey than I had planned. But anyway, so in my book, The Joyful Frugalista, I have a whole chapter there on fashion and sustainable fashion. I've been an op shopper for years. My mum is a former fashion designer. She was a fashion designer for many years. Her name's Lee Bird. She was in her heyday in the 80s and 90s when hair was big and shoulder pads were bigger. She was, fairly well known. Less so now, right? You can't really Google her because she's sort of finished before the internet age. But, in her era, she was quite influential. So I've grown up around fashion, but I'm a black sheep who's never really followed it. Anyway, for my birthday in 2020, in October, we were just out of lockdown. You were still probably in lockdown in Victoria, but we were out of lockdown. So I wanted to celebrate my birthday with a clothes swap. It's what I love to do. So I had a whole lot of girlfriends around for a clothes swap. I clothes swap with my sister. I'm wearing something that my sister gave me. I loved it and done this for years. Had a whole lot of people around. And then I had like bags and bags of this clothes left over. Now, I give most of the leftovers to my Zonta Club, who have a fundraiser. Zonta is a service club that helps women and girls. I also give a lot to op shops. But at that time, I was actually writing for the Daily Telegraph, and I think in the Melbourne it comes down as the Sunday Sun and quite a few other things. But I had a one-page column called Savvy Shopper that I had for about 4 months during COVID in 2020. And I was writing an article on how to flip clothes for profit. So I went, okay, let's try and sell a few of these clothes and let's see how it goes. And it was sort of depressing. I know there's Facebook Marketplace, but it's just sort of like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is about it. It just didn't feel right. And then there was this other app called Depop, which has got like millions of users. It's a UK site, but none of the brands that I wanted were on there because it's a Gen Z and millennial based platform. So they're mainly fashion bloggers, showing off their little midriff tops and their little mini skirts. And I was like, oh my God, it's been years since I've been able to fit into something like that. And I've never felt so old and so fat in my life. And I was just like, and I could see there was a problem, right? Because like everyone had come to my clothes swap saying, I've got these beautiful clothes, but my body's changed, pre, post childbirth, COVID, menopause, losing weight, putting on weight, menopause, all these clothes. So I sort of went, my intuition said, you need to do something. And I went, go away. Literally, I said, go away. I'm busy. I've got the Joyful Business Club, the Joyful Frugalista. I don't have time for this. So I remember I went and I vacuumed. I went, I'm too busy. I'm going to vacuum. And an hour later, my intuition was still nudging me going, you need to do this now. And I went, okay, fine, got it. So I went and registered the domain name straight away, the Joyful Fashionista. I went, okay, I'll do that. And then I did a bit of research. I, put together a website. Turned out it wasn't quite the right website. Got a bit of feedback on it. Got 2 grants last year, one from YWCA Canberra, which is significant. I'm actually paying it forward by paying double the amount that I got back for a new grant this year, which I'm very excited about. And then it's a micro grant, so it's not huge. It's not going to bankrupt me. And then I got a grant from the Canberra Innovation Network. So I was like, okay, I've got to do this thing. And unfortunately, the website developer I was working with weren't terribly fantastic. They weren't particularly competent. So after 7 months of heartache, I basically had to wipe the slate, start again, and I developed it myself over from November, and it was ready just before Christmas, and I'm still fine-tuning it. But it was something I was really passionate about, and I don't know how it's going to go, but what I'm learning is when your intuition tells you to do something, you have to do it. And in this case, I kept saying, go away, go away, go away, and it wouldn't let up. So everyone thinks I'm crazy having 3 businesses, but like I said, my intuition told me to do it, so I just did it.
Oh, I love it. You are so talking my language. It's just like 100%. It's just like your intuition, and it's the same thing. Your body sends you messages, right? So we've got connections all through. You've got your head brain, heart brain, and your gut brain. Your gut brain is that intuition, and your body is sending you messages through from the head, from the gut, everywhere. And being a physical person like a PT, I work a lot with messages that you get through your body, right? But you can't hide what your gut's telling you, right? It's how I got into all of this. It was Oprah, and she just said on her closing remark on her last show ever, that she said, if there's one thing I can impart to people is listen to that voice inside your head, that little niggle inside, that little whatever. It doesn't make sense most of the time, but follow it. And I've trusted my gut the whole way through. And like, look, you're juggling all these things, but as you said, I can't hide it. It's telling me what I have to do. I love it.
Well, it seems like juggling, and some days it does, but actually when you distill it, it's the same market. So I'm very conscious actually that my market is women from around about their 40s to their 60s.
Yeah.
So on our honeymoon, second marriage, so we got married in September 2018, and then we went on a cruise ship from October to November. And there was a so big family cruise ship. And so there was a motivational speaker on there, and he was talking about Richard Branson particularly, and how good he was about targeting his age group. Like, he's gone from, selling records in the 70s, because, in the 70s, that was a big thing, to, then, working on other things, such as airplane travel, because that then was something his generation was doing. And now he's into other things, he's obviously into space flight as well, but into cruise ships, which I don't think have done so well during COVID, but he was noticing what his age group is doing. So he markets to people in their 70s. And I sort of had this epiphany, and I went, you know what, like, it felt to me like everyone was talking about millennial women or millennials. There's nothing wrong with millennials, but I'm just not one of them. I don't really know how they think, because I'm not one of them. And I went, you know what? I'm on the tail edge of a baby boom. There was a huge second baby boom around when I was born in 1972. So I've got my 50th birthday this year. So why don't I just do things that market to my age group, to women in my age group, because I'm one of them and they're big. And, the weird thing is that's actually where the purchasing power is, because up to 85% of purchasing decisions are made by women. And that particular age group of women are the ones who are cashed up right now. 100%. So I'm perfectly fine by that.
100%. I wrote that down before, actually, because long story short, chicks over the 50s have so much more dispensable income, because kids have got bigger, lack of school fees, whatever, it's the time to shine, really. And it's the most untapped market, the over 50s. It's just there, come and get us, baby. I mean, I'm in there, and it's like, I totally get it. We're not marketed to. We're marketed to all these short, skinny skirt things, and no, hello, menopause, completely ruined my body. Like, work with me. Not against me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I wanted it to be a space, particularly in all of my work, right? To be a space where we could talk about all of those sorts of things, to be very inclusive about it, and to celebrate women as they are. But, that's consciously who my market is. So, for instance, on my podcast, The Joyful Frugalista, while it's about saving and investing, it's really about stories and finding your purpose in life, really. It's not just like, if I was a young guy in the 20s, I'd be, this podcast is 7 tips for making $1 million no matter what, so you can drive the latest Tesla or Lamborghini or whatever. Like, I mean, women in their 50s aren't interested in that shit. They really aren't. It's not who they are. It's not, I mean, they're sort of like, well, how does this help the planet? How does this make me feel happy? How does this feel aligned with my purpose?
Yeah, 100%. The non-tangible stuff. It's just like, we don't need that. Stuff doesn't mean, and I think particularly when you go through divorce and you have a realignment in what's important, and it's the stuff that money doesn't buy. It's the hugs, it's the cuddles. It's the phone call. It's something. It's the arm around your shoulder. Whoa, you can't buy that. And so 100%. So that leads into my next question. With all this wonderful awesomeness that you do and who you are, what do you think is your actual superpower? What is your magic? What is it that people are drawn to you specifically?
Yeah, this is a good question again. And quite coincidentally, my partner in crime for the Founders Alliance this morning, Claire turned to me this morning and said, you have a superpower, Serina. And I nearly fell over, because I was trying to think of it for this recording, because you'd given me the question in advance. And she said, you're really able to motivate and encourage other people. And I went, really? And she said, yeah. She said, you just said all these amazing things to me. You didn't even realize it, but it really meant a lot to me. You just said all these amazing things to people in that room, and you don't even realize it. But I mean, I actually really love helping other people. As an empath, I have to be careful to have boundaries, to be frank. But I really, sometimes you can just sense that someone just needs that motivation to say, you know what, you actually are a good writer. you know what? You can actually do this.
Yeah.
If you're a guy, would you be applying for that job? Well, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
Because, you are doing it. It's not, you can do it, you are doing it. So like, just apply for a high level and get that recognition you deserve.
Yeah. So you're empowering other people. That's
Mm.
what you're doing. Like, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful, because more than ever, particularly the niche that you're working with, we need that. We need you, right? Because we start to doubt ourselves, and, we get a bit down, and clothes are getting bigger or tighter or whatever. And you have these down days, and it's like, oh my God, I'm getting old, I'm getting wrinkles. And it's like, yeah, but it's just like, let's get past that stuff. And I can see you digging into the deeper stuff with people, meeting them at their level, but really tapping into where you can really help them. I can just feel that. Wow. So that leads on to, like, with your niche being sort of the women 40s to 60s, what do you think is the biggest issue facing them?
There are a lot, but I would say it comes down to value and self-worth.
Yeah, big time.
Big time value and self-worth. And, increasingly women of this age group have also got trauma too because of life experiences.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to value and self-worth. And, I think these women of this generation have come of age of a really interesting time. Like a couple of generations before us, we wouldn't have been in the workforce. A couple of generation or two after, we would have been in the workforce very easily.
Yeah.
So now we're sort of the first ones who have been in the workforce en masse. We feel guilty if we're not in the workplace when we've got kids. We feel guilty if we are in the workplace. There's still quite a lot of discrimination, and all of that erodes our self-worth. So it's actually quite difficult. A younger generation don't seem to feel the imposter syndrome that much. There's been a bit written about how millennials don't seem to feel it. I'm hoping this is a sign that this generation that we're in has really been trailblazers in terms of putting in place things that prevent discrimination and have a more open playing field. But sadly, it could just be that because they haven't gone through trauma yet, they haven't gone and faced, the put downs, the criticism, the discrimination, the glass ceilings, the unfairness about caring responsibilities and other things.
Yeah, no, 100% relate to that, because, where was I reading about somewhere this morning about, unequal pay still these days for the same job. Different sex, and it's just like different, right? And yes, trying to balance being a mother and a partner and business person, and just part of our instincts, our maternal instincts, and our nurturing and our cleaning and all this sort of stuff. It's just inbuilt in us like robots, and it's just like trying to do it all, and then copying it down the track with the resentment, the burnout, the overwhelm, the everything that happens to women. So I really would love to see that moving forward. And I think you're right, the next generation can have more of a balance, which would just be beautiful, because it is, as you say, moving into everyone working. Doesn't matter who you are, what your role is in the household. It's just going to be sort of more equal. Yeah, interesting. So that leads into, because with all of, as we get to our age, we've got so much experience, which has built us lots of wisdom. So, out of, what are your 3 tops tips based on your build up of experience, knowledge, and wisdom over time?
We were talking about intuition. And I really think that acting on that intuition is key. It's, you're trusting it, but it's not just trusting it, it's actually acting it. And this is actually harder than you think. And I know you're nodding because, you work with energy and this, right? But, there's so many social reasons for us women. We get this message, but then we stay where we are. And I did this for a long time myself as a single mum with kids, so I stayed in my solid Commonwealth public service job. I remember being skiing with my dad, stuck on a ski lift with him as I was planning to leave, with him telling me, stay, you've got great super in the PSS system, stay, get promoted, and then when you're retired like me, you can get this amazing income. And he's right, like it was a safe path. But having that courage to act on your intuition, despite the societal pressure, and it is not always so easy, I will be honest, but you won't be fulfilled. And actually, I think that a lot of anxiety that women of this particular age group are experiencing is because they are out of alignment with what their intuition is telling them and what they're actually doing. And it's not their fault. It is not their fault.
Well, it's the head chatter, right? You've got it just goes on and on and on and on, and it's hard to juggle, and it does require courage, as you say. You've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Change doesn't happen unless you get out of the norm. So you really got to pull up your big girl undies, pull up your socks, and just, bite it and go for it, because otherwise you're going to be on that same hamster wheel, and you're wanting it. And it's just, often I see it, I call it FTS, and we won't say what the F stands for, but this shit. And it's just like, I've had enough. And that's when real change happens, right? When you hit that level,
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. I just can't.
Yeah.
And you're just on the boundary of getting sick. Right. So, it's time for us to sort of empower ourselves and support each other to do it, because that's where it becomes easier, when you've got a community around you that can support you.
Yeah. I was talking to a younger woman who works very much in the women's empowerment space earlier this week about these sorts of challenges too. And I do think women are socialized to, get that good job, be quiet, be stable. It's part of being the nurturer is also now increasingly becoming the provider as well, which, that's not a bad thing, but it just means then when our intuition is telling us we need to do this, we stay here because we need to support other people in our life and do what they expect us. And that causes us a lot of emotional grief, I think. So
it's just like you're at, two sides going into each other. Yeah. Absolutely. So what would your second tip be? So acting on your intuition.
Take imperfect action. I'm huge on this. Anyone who knows me knows I'm huge on this. I mean, the whole Joyful Business Club is imperfect action, right? I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? I don't know how to take this forward. I'm not a business expert. I mean, I've written a whole book, even though I'm not a business expert, about how to be in business. But that said, I have had the privilege of being able to get insights from many gurus who are experts. So, I'm a writer, so that's what I've done. So, there's always a way, but you just start that process. And then in Chinese culture, and you probably gathered that I have a real interest in Chinese culture and speak some Chinese, but Chairman Mao, one of his favorite sayings or stories is a fable about the foolish man who moved the mountain. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but there was this foolish old man who wanted to move a mountain. And so he got this shovel out. He started, digging the mountain, and people kept coming by and saying, foolish old man, what are you doing? And he said, I'm moving a mountain. I don't want that mountain there. I'm moving the mountain. And they said, you're never going to do it. And then he had this phrase, which we used to rote learn. I used to have it actually written on my wall. And it was, so long as you have perseverance, you will eventually reach your goal. If you persevere, you'll reach your goal, basically. Yeah. I will have sons, and my sons will have sons, and those sons will have sons, and we're going to continue in this journey. Anyway, so then the story goes that the spirits of the mountain had pity on this man, and this big mudslide happened, or earthquake or something, and this road through the mountain, materialized. And you can laugh at that, but, how many times have you said, okay, look, this seems like a stupid goal, like it's huge, right? Building a website when you don't even think you know how to do that is huge. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to find a developer. I don't know how to do anything. But let's just get that shovel out and let's just start shoveling. And then sometimes the universe just sends you these guardian angels who just, pave the way for you, and it's just clear.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way of manifesting.
Yeah.
Because where your intention goes, your energy flows. And so you fake it till you make it. You're just believing and feeling it. The more you feel it, that it's actually real, and it's actually, the quicker it manifests. It's just how the universe works. You're aligning your energy with your intention, with the feeling and the emotion of it, and the gratitude, as if you've already received it right now. So, you're manifesting miracles. And I love it, taking imperfect action, because one of my lines is, we're perfectly imperfect, right? Because that's just how it is. We're human beings on this earth. We are meant to be imperfect, and we're meant to learn, right? Through our journey. So interesting. So what's number 3?
Number 3 is a more recent kind of learning, and that's, it's okay to set boundaries. So as an empath, I've really struggled with this because, empaths and narcissists have this symbiotic relationship. I want to please, you know, I want to be compassionate, and they just take advantage of that like no tomorrow. And I always thought it was my fault, that I just needed to be nicer, I needed to give more, I needed to do more. And of course, if you're dealing with someone who doesn't have empathy, they're just like, oh, fantastic, I can get more stuff for free, let's just, you know, run this in. And so then I would just absolutely burn out. I would get upset at work, I'd be taking on too much, I would just do not. So now I'm just, you know, it is okay to set boundaries. And the weird thing is those people in your life, they actually respect you more when you have boundaries. Who would have thought, right? So I'm just learning to go, oh, actually, yeah. And like, even like a service club that I'm in, learning to set boundaries and saying, well, actually, I'm doing too much right now, so this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. People really respect that. They go, oh yeah, well, that's fair enough. Really?
Yeah. I love it. We are so separated at birth. It's ridiculous. I mean, even things like I changed my car because I had 7-seater and I was driving everybody else's kids around. As soon as I just got a 5-seater, so I could fit my 4 kids in, my life was so much better and nobody gave a thing. It's just like, yeah, it was so much easier. It's like, no, I can't do it. And no is you know, it's a strong word. Like, you have to be resilient enough to be able to say the word no. So setting boundaries is really, really important, because we only have limited time and energy, and it's, you know, being very selective about where we spend that time and energy. And so, yeah, is it serving you, not serving you? Is it something I have to do, or, you know, am I choosing to do it? So I love it. So 3 tips: acting on your intuition, taking imperfect action, and it's okay to set boundaries. That's gorgeous. It's awesome. So that leads into, once again, over all of your journey and experiences, part of my sort of mantra is let go, step up, and be more. So over your journey so far, what have you found that you've let go of? How have you stepped up, and how have you become more of yourself, or found a deeper connection to yourself in your life?
Well, Dee, I had to let go of my full-time job. And I say this too because I was back last year. A former colleague invited me back. And there was a lot of status, right? So I was working at the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. You know, I had been a diplomat on posting, you know, secure job, good pay, status. You know, you go to parties and say, I work at diplomat. And, oh, you know, it sounds all very flash, but it wasn't bringing me happiness. I wanted it to bring me happiness, but it wasn't bringing me happiness. And I had to give that up. And that was really hard. I had a lot of status. A lot of my ego was attached to that role. I'd spent many years studying towards it, trying to get into the department, you know, and so it was a big thing to let go of that.
That is huge. I'm just trying to get my head around it. Like, did you say you were posted in Taiwan? And
I was posted to Taipei for 3.5 years. Just to be clear, we don't have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, so we have an office.
Oh, right.
It functions very similarly, but from a diplomatic point of view, we don't have diplomatic relations with Taiwan. But I worked on China issues for many years, and there's many other things that I've done that I'm very proud of, you know, representing Australia at a senior level and other things. So yes, it was quite a lot to walk away from that.
It's huge. So you have let go of a lot. So then that's led into, how have you stepped up?
Well, how I stepped up is listening to my intuition with all 3 of these, which is a big thing. And then, you know, stepping up too with this year, we'll be doing more with Women's Entrepreneurship Day.
Massive.
Yes. So and you know, part of me gets a bit panicky and thinks, oh God, how am I going to have time? But look, it's okay. You want something done, you give it to a busy person to do. But it's just you listen to your intuition, you know, and you do that. And even in my, you know, in Zonta, where I'm involved in this year, I'm vice president, and that was mainly to support the president. And if you step up, others will step up. It's an interesting thing if you're over in a meeting with others, or particularly if you're in a service club, the moment you say, look, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, everyone else tells you how busy they are. It's like it's like, you know, those you know, when you've got all the dominoes and you do one, it just goes and then suddenly nothing will get done. But if you say, look, okay, you know, we've got boundaries, so you're not going to do everything, but you know, like, I've got a to-do list and these are the things I'm doing. This I've done this is what I'm doing, you know, with the boundary. Then everyone will go, oh, they'll share your excitement. Oh, well, if you're doing that, well, I can do this.
I love it. The domino effect, 100%. So therefore, how have you become more of yourself and that deeper connection to yourself? Because you've let go of a lot of the status, the ego stuff, stepped up listening to your intuition. So how has that helped you be more?
Look, this is an ongoing process. When I left my first marriage, I wrote a post that went out on another blog and got quite a lot of attraction about my identity. So in my first marriage, I was married to someone who was Taiwanese. My surname was Huang, so it was Serina Huang. I was Serina Bird, and we lived actually a pretty Chinese life. I was actually, most days we spoke Chinese at home. We ate Chinese food. We had Chinese speaking friends.
Wow.
I know. And I was posted to Taiwan as well. My children are Eurasian. And so when I left that marriage, I had to actually ask a lot of things about who I was and what my identity was, because I'd spent 20 years living in that Asian context.
Whoa, that's full on.
It was full on. Like, who am I? What is my surname? And so, do I celebrate Chinese New Year? Do I not? Some years I did, some years I didn't. Like, there was a lot of things like this. So now it's actually quite changed and shifted quite a lot. And so, just going through this process of what do I actually want? Because for a long time too, in that environment, and it had been, there had been some control elements. So things I wanted to do, I couldn't do. So I did certain things I wanted to do. I took up skiing again, which I hadn't done since I was young. Loved it. But my ex-husband didn't want to do it. But I wanted to do it, so I did it. I changed my surname back to Bird, which was my maiden name when I got remarried. My current husband was born in Queanbeyan, and he used to have a sheep farm. He's pretty off Oz. He doesn't speak any Chinese. But there's elements of Chinese culture that I really like. I celebrated Chinese New Year with friends this year. But it was really, I had to go through a very deep process of reconnecting with who I was. And this is still ongoing, but, I think anyone who's been through a very intense relationship where unavoidably you've had to change to fit in. And in my case, my mother-in-law told me that once I'm married into the Taiwanese family, I had to be Taiwanese. I had to take that on. It wasn't, although I really love Chinese culture, there were a lot of expectations that went with that culturally, that I had to fit in with that. And so when I was no longer part of that, then I had to decide which bits I wanted to keep and which bits I weren't. And it was a long process.
Wow, amazing. So basically you're just connecting with your true authentic self and living your true identity, being the genuine you. What a turnaround. And that was over 20 years ago, and look at how much you've changed and developed as a person, become more confident, more connected with yourself, more resilient. You're really standing in your own pillar of strength. It's like so good to see.
Well, less than that. So I left in August 2014. So what's 8 years?
8 years. Oh man, what a turnaround.
So it's been quite a turnaround. Yeah.
Wow.
And for the first year I didn't really make many changes. Like, it was just kind of survival mode. Yeah. But by year 2 or 3, I was really starting to think a lot about, well, actually I don't have to answer to someone else anymore. So, or other cultural expectations. Like, what is it that I want to do? And it takes a lot of courage to ask that, because we're so used to pleasing other people around us, especially the empaths. Yeah. What is it that I want to do? Not others, me.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I just love it. Wow. So that leads me into my final question. So down the track, how would you like to be remembered? What sort of legacy would you like to leave?
I'd like to be remembered as a change maker. I was going to say kind, but I don't like the word kind. Actually, I was at my son's primary school graduation in December, and there was one particular teacher who tended to refer to nearly every female girl as kind, and I got very upset about that. So I think kind is so stereotypical for women, but I would actually really like to be remembered to have someone who had a strong heart and the courage to go forward and help people and make the world a better place.
Wow, it's giving me goosebumps. Sorry, I'm just writing it down. Make the world a better place. Oh, wow, that's awesome. I can really feel that, and I can feel your passion. And it's not just words, because words have energy, right? And it's just like the words that you choose, like kind is like sweet or nice. It's very vanilla, and it's sort of like an empty word, but strong. It's strong heart, it's that strong connection, that strong empathy, the courage, to step up. It's like that line in Wizard of Oz, having the courage. And and it's not easy. It ruffles feathers, and I can't help myself. Sometimes if I see something that's not right, I will say or do something, and usually people would tell me quietly that they appreciated that I did that, but it's not always easy. You're not treading the normal path. You're not being the obedient woman
the obedient girl,
Yeah.
lady that people want you to be.
Yeah. You're
And
being yourself, but as you say, you're taking imperfect action. You're just doing something, because nothing grates on me more than emptiness. Words are one thing. It's actions that really speak louder than words. And this is
exactly
what we're all about. You know, it's time. This is energetically, with everything going on, it's time now to start moving, to putting things in place. We've done our planning. Now let's action, get behind it. And, you know, because action speaks volumes, right? And so that's what I'm absolutely loving about you, Serina. Like, what an eye-opening conversation I've had with you today. I'm just loving your energy. I love how you fell into these different things. You couldn't explain it, just felt it, couldn't go against it, trusted your gut. You're talking my language 110%. And what a journey and what an experience you've had so far. Like, I'm so grateful to have met you just recently, you know, a bit more, you know, through Kelly's group and networking. But yeah, I'm really excited to look for your new book that's coming out around April, and then to also hear about how the networking group goes, because I'd love to be involved when it goes online, because obviously I'm in Melbourne, you're in Canberra, but you know, it's got a different take on networking, because networking has really benefited my life, my business. But then when you're taking the best bits out and putting it together, whoa,
hopefully
it's gonna fly, babe. It's like incredible, super incredible. So just to finish off, where can people get hold of you? Like, I will put the links in there, but just website, socials, I think
there's a lot. So Joyful Frugalista, so website and podcast and associated bits. There's a Facebook group as well. The Joyful Business Club, mainly on the Facebook group. That's where I'm most active with that one. And then the Joyful Fashionista, so the website, so the marketplace for buying and selling, and also too on the Facebook group and Instagram.
Right, fantastic. So I'll put those links in this post. But yeah, wow. So the podcast is on YouTube. Yeah. Oh no, there we go. You've got
it is actually as well on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all major platforms. You're a YouTuber yourself, so you know how it works.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, well, Serina, thank you so much for spending the time with us, talking about yourself and what you've been up to and what you're doing with business and your journey, because it's just, I love meeting people like yourself. And this is what I love doing about this. You know, hearing about your journey, we're very similar, same age group, same issues in some ways. So yeah, we're all great community of like-minded people lifting ourselves up and supporting each other. That's the way to go.
Exactly, as a collective. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on, and I look forward to watching your success minute by minute, day by day. All right, I'll see you later, everyone. Bye.